No, I said I'd get back to people in 24 hours, and it's been like a month. Sorry about that. It's been insanely hectic. I have to go back and look at the questions. But somebody named Jack Frost, I think his name is, I hope I'm allowed to say that, brought up Christ's crucifixion, that, you know, he would be left on the cross to be, you know, eaten by vultures, right? But the thing is that, remember, this is around the time of Passover. Now, Passover can refer to the day or even the week. The week of Passover gets called Passover as well. Now, Jews must bury a body. If somebody dies at night, they have to be buried before the sun rises. If they die during the day, they must be in the ground before sundown. Now, especially during the week of Passover, you can't have a Jewish body, even if it's a heretic, hanging on a cross. Especially just outside of the gates of Jerusalem, when the city is swollen with people, because it takes people months to get there for Passover, and they stay there for a few weeks. You know, coming from Alexandria, which is kind of close, coming from Antioch, from Rome. Rome is a huge Jewish center. Coming from Babylon, and I went the wrong way. But we know that Jesus had a cult following. And that he had disciples who were working class but poor, but he also had some people who were affluent for the time, right? And Joseph, it's said that, it's just kind of an offhand thing, Joseph of Arimathea let him borrow his tomb. Now, the tombs weren't given away because it was assumed that his body would be put in there, and then his bones would be taken and put in an ossuary. The Joseph of Arimathea would have been buried in Joseph of Arimathea's tomb, but the body would have been laid there for about a year, and then they'd put his body and his bones in an ossuary. So the body would have definitely been removed, and some people would say, well, it'd be just thrown on a garbage heap. No, the Jews buried bodies. I mean, it was a cleanliness thing, and a ritual cleanliness is extremely important in Islam and Judaism, even in Christianity with baptism, right? Like if a baby has Down syndrome, or if they're going to die in a few days, they'd still get baptized. But with the cleanliness thing, they would make sure it was in the ground. Even if it's a sinner or something, they would want the body in the ground and not on a garbage heap. So even the two thieves, or the two convicted criminals, would have gotten buried, probably in a pauper's grave, or even in a mass grave, but they would have been buried. As for Jesus, there's a specific mention that he was laid in Joseph of Arimathea's tomb, right? Which would have been temporary for for a year, and then his bones would be put in an ossuary and whatever. But for Joseph of Arimathea, it would probably be permanent, or Joseph of Arimathea, there would be a resting, this is probably what it was, a resting table, like almost like a stone bed. The body decomposes, bones be put in an ossuary, and then it'd be put in a loculi in the wall, which is basically just a kind of a carved out hole. And then the next family member that died in the Arimathea family would be laid on that bench, and then they'd be put in, so you'd have family graves, and they find these all over Israel. So there's no reason to suspect that would happen. Now, for the non-Jews, or even Jews outside of Israel, where you wouldn't have, because remember, the Jews revolted during the Maccabees and won. They revolted just in 70 AD, just a few decades later, and lost, and then they revolted in 133 or 132 and held out till 135 under Bar Kokhba. So they had a kingdom for 3 years. And the Jews were upstarts. They were constantly, I mean, you had the Sicari'i and the Zealots. The Sicari'i were the suicide bomber faction of the Zealots, who were the jihadis of the time. So I mean, no matter how much they hated Jesus or John the Baptist or whoever, that's a Jewish body. They're not, and it being presented on a cross rotting during the week of Passover, that's going to get a lot of Roman soldiers killed, or they're just going to kill a bunch of Roman citizens as revenge. So it doesn't jive with history. No matter what you think of, even if you would think the story of Jesus was a complete myth, just looking at the rest of history, the idea that the extremely contentious Jews who have multiple parties of people who are willing to commit suicide just to kill Roman citizens, that the Jews would allow the Romans to have a rotting body crucified throughout any time during the week of Passover near the holy city of Jerusalem. No, it wouldn't happen. I mean, that's like having basically like having a slaughtered pig in the temple, just like Antiochus Epiphanes did. Or like if the Romans, if you had, let's say you had a bunch of rotting dog carcasses in the temple of Minerva, or a Vestal Virgin, you know, like having pig shit thrown on her, it's not going to stand. People are going to die. So that's my thing. I'll get to the other questions within 48 hours this time. Peace to you.